Controversy.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are a bit late, so we need to start now. This is one of the major programs of this year's Dhaka Doc Lab. As you know, Dhaka Doc Lab is basically a workshop teaching program. But we used to do a number of sessions other than workshop, lab, and the teaching sessions. So one of the major programs, I must say, not one of the major programs, the major attraction is a master class. In last 2 years, we had master classes of 2 major filmmakers around the world. Last year, we had with us Sean McAllister, the renowned UK filmmaker. This year, we invited Emma Devi. Perhaps many of you already met her, and yesterday we saw the beautiful film, very beautiful film, Becoming Animal. Emma is a Scottish UK filmmaker. She won a number of awards, and I think his last film has been to the festival circuits for long. I would invite Emma Devi to the dais, and this masterclass is basically a conversation. So for that conversation, we have invited my mentor, particularly who I worship in many cases, Neil Paul Mohinder.
Which seat would you like? We're very impressed by these chairs.
Yeah.
We just hope we don't get too comfy.
These are prepared, made for, as I
You
said,
made the chairs especially?
for presidents, prime ministers. Thank you all. Enjoy the masterclass.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Maybe Mike.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Tarek says that, as a major attractions, as a major component of Dhaka Doc Lab, but I don't know why he has chosen such a minor couple to take care of this. Say it's a major event, you know. First of all, thanks to Emma, it's a great opportunity to be with Emma, to have a kind of a conversations, you know, that we have been continuing from the last 3 days. And last 3 days, while we are having conversations and interaction with filmmakers, you know, we together understood that when we talk about reality storytelling, when we talk about slicing something which is significant to me or significant to us as a storyteller from life, it's really so challenging, so difficult. So it's filming, organization of fragments, then adding meaning to all those fragments, and finally taking a positions, whether how you get engage yourself as a filmmaker. I really personally believe that when you talk about reality storytelling, or so-called actuality storytelling, it's extremely boring. But reality is really banal, you know. So, but we bring out things, we bring out our conversations from that reality that we live in, from our environment, and it cannot just done by doing the recording faithfully. We have to somehow, how to place myself at the eye, that's what is the conversation we can create. And that needs a lots of, I think that kind of, it's not only sensibility, how do we look at life, you know? So we'll really love to explore Emma's beautiful world as a storyteller. And yesterday we have seen the film, Becoming Animal. This is not only a film, it's a kind of a visionary conversations, how the whole intellectualism or human sensibilities will look at our world. So again, so we'll have a conversations, but it is basically, Emma will be speaking about the kind of motivation, the filming, organizations, characterizations, because all these things that we have been talking about, we heard 18 filmmakers or 70 filmmakers. We have been talking, and it's a whole dialogical experience is such that we all have these questions. What is the best possible way where I can plant my soul into the machine called camera, So all these things we'll try to explore from a perspective of a filmmaker, which I personally have a great respect in. So Emma? That's fine.
So this, can you hear me okay? No. I don't think this is working.
No.
Maybe I use yours instead. Oh, sorry. Okay, small point of having to turn it on, sorry. So this conversation is really an improvisation between us, and I think if you feel you want to feed things in, this is also fine. Because really it's a response, I feel, not just to the screening of the film yesterday, but to an earlier film I want to show. Because I think maybe my earlier film, I Am Breathing, deals with many of the dilemmas and issues and challenges that we have discovered here in the lab for so many filmmakers, which I think we all share as filmmakers. So we're going to be really nitty-gritty with this and look at scenes and unpick them and try and work out, why a film ends up the way it is and what the journey is on the way, and to really discuss the different elements. So we're going to take us very much through the filmmaking process, and I just thought I would begin with this very obvious word at the beginning, which is motivation. And I have to share a secret with you. And I think the secret that I have to share is I really don't want to be a filmmaker. I think it is such a hard thing to do, and it takes over so much of our life, and we end up kind of, I think, making so many sacrifices for this thing making a film. And yet every time I say, I don't think I want to be a filmmaker, something comes up. Some little story seems to land as if by magic in front of me and kind of almost demand to be made. So I'm sure many of you here will have a similar sense of actually this whole business of why you end up making the films you end up making being an incredible mystery somehow. And it's a mystery that I think we try to understand throughout the process then of making the film. Why this? Why did I choose this subject? Because you have to be so careful of the little decisions you make at the beginning of a process will mean that you're locked into something for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even 10 years. So what those little decisions are about, I think, contain so much insight into how we can then understand our film. So I think some films for me come because I have an absolute volition for it, and I think the one that we saw yesterday, Becoming Animal, was like that. It really felt I really need to make this film. But the film I'd like to talk a little bit more about today is an earlier film that I made a few years ago called I Am Breathing, which didn't begin like that. It didn't begin because I felt in any way I had to make it, but it began very much because maybe it had to be made, which is a different thing. So I explain a little bit of the background of the film, then I'd like to show a clip, and then I'd like to discuss a bit about some of the decisions about filming, why decisions of making the film the way we made it happened. So what this film was about, what happened was the there was a friend of mine who knew somebody who was very ill with an illness called motor neuron disease that some of you might have heard of. It's a paralysing illness. And he was a young father, he was 33, he was a brilliant man, he was an architect. He had a little baby son. And within 6 months of the son being born, he was completely paralysed from the neck down. He couldn't swallow, he couldn't breathe properly apart from a breathing machine, and he knew that he didn't have long to live. And basically his father had died of this illness, his grandfather had died of his illness, and he was very scared that his baby son would get it. So he began writing a blog, and he began sharing with people his story in order to raise awareness of the illness. And he wanted television to do news reports on it, and he wanted it to be written about in journals and magazines. And my friend, who was a friend of his, said, I think you have to meet him and see if you can film something for him. So I went on a journey to meet this man, and really wasn't sure about making a film at all. But I want to show a little clip, and then I want to talk in more detail about camera choices, filming character, and how you work with your doubts. Because I think we all have doubts when we film some intense suffering, and I know many of you are making films here which involve really filming such difficult life situations. And it makes you wonder, if somebody's in the midst of what they're going through, what right have I to pick up the camera in the midst of this? What right have I to make a story out of somebody's life when they're going through what they're going through? We've heard of stories of people in exile, stories of people losing their homes, stories of people who have many other problems related to so many issues that people throughout the world are facing just now, and also here very much with refugees and many countries. We choose to make films when people are in the midst of really dealing with so much, but we have to ask so many questions. So I want to just see a little bit, if it's okay to begin with this, Nilopal. We see a little bit, and then I talk a little bit about the decisions around that and how we get to this. Okay, thank you.
Lights off, please.